Hi, this is artifact number 2. I have a Google slideshow, and my first slide is super colorful. It has on the title page, Special Education Department, Math 1 PLC and Math 2 PLC. So I'm actually involved in 3 different communities as a math teacher and a special education teacher. I teach Math 1 and Math 2 in the SDC setting. So in the special day setting, I'm in 3 different communities. So I screenshot the first on the second slide, the special education department. In that slide, this is a really valuable Google Classroom. All of our paraprofessionals, special education teachers, service providers, anyone that interacts with our students and provides them any kind of service, they are on here. We post resources, our workability tech, for instance, we'll post about job fairs, career, any kind of resources, like job interview tips, how do you apply, like it'll have her workability like office, her virtual office. Some teachers will post rubrics for the Woodcock Johnson. Like any resource that you can think of is posted on here. If a teacher has a question regarding anything, we can post it on here and someone in our Google Classroom can respond to it, immediately. So I've used this at least on a weekly basis, almost every other day when I, want to double check on something, or sometimes I want to look for another way to assess students. There's a lot of valuable resources on here. So this is one community that I am a part of. The second community is the Math 1 PLC. So this is how I'm able to consult and collaborate with our general education Math 1 teachers. We will have our PLC meetings virtually, and everyone will post materials. So you'll see like the semester 1 final and different activities within different units. And so I look at it as the special education instructor and see, okay, what is something that I can use with my students? How can I modify it so that it, will fit the needs of my students? Or sometimes I get other ideas where I look at something and say, oh, okay, if there was like a project and I think of something that would, fit my students' needs. So then I'll go back and, create something. So there was like a project on here that initially was like a notebook project, and the kids had to do like a Google like slide and create a notebook. And I knew my students are very hands-on. They like creating things. So instead, I created a math game board project, and that ended up being something that my students really, really enjoyed, because this was something that they were able to create, in groups. They collaborated, and it was still it still had all the same elements of that digital math notebook that the Math 1 was doing, but this was catered to my students' needs. They were able to incorporate art, they had posters, they were able to present it the same thing like the digital math notebook that the Math 1 students were doing. They had to present this in a group, how to work with it. It had all these different elements, and it was honestly, it was a really good turnout. My kids loved it. And this was something that they told their friends about, and I even brought like game pieces, and this was a really good project. And so see, as a special education teacher, I see what resources are available, and then use what I can, and find other ways that I can get creative and figure out ways to fit the needs of my students. And the same thing with the Math 2 PLC. I look at the different resources that are on here for my Math 2 students. Sometimes I will use some of the resources, sometimes I won't, and I make sure that they have the best of both worlds, where they still have access to the curriculum, but then it's how I deliver instruction is different than in the Math 1, the Gen Ed Math 1 and Math 2 setting. So this was artifact number 2.